Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Macabre and welcome back to my movie library. We're going to do another, original versus remake. I haven't done one of these in a little while and yeah, I've been feeling a little nostalgic for one. I actually was going to try to do a book review, but yeah, for some reason that didn't exactly work out so well. This book is so good I want to fuck it. So anyway, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a original versus remake. And yeah, I decided that the one I'm going to go ahead and go with today, we're going to talk about the original Children of the Corn versus the 2009 remake. I could bring up the Shudder kind of reboot, but I don't know. There's not really too much to say about this one. I mean, it was okay and it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. Clearly, the whole thing was, this movie was meant to kind of be a way to kind of reboot the franchise, but I'm not sure if that really happened. If I understand correctly, I think this movie was supposed to get a theatrical release, but it kind of just got dropped onto Shudder streaming and everything. I would say, yeah, give it a watch. It's definitely, oh God, you've seen some of the sequels to these movies. It's like, this is definitely a step up from some of the sequels, but I feel like we'll just go ahead and I thought it was funny that we had to replace, that we had to gender swap the Isaac character. We have to show the little girls are just as evil and vicious as, and into satanic worship as boys. So we needed that gender swap, but overall, it was a decent, fun little flick. I didn't mind it. Like I said, it's definitely better than some of the damn sequels, that's for sure. But I thought we would go ahead and talk about the 1985 movie versus the 2009 Sci-Fi Channel remake. And, first of all, I wonder, a little bit of a background, I remember we went to go, my dad wanted to go to the movie theater. We watched Sudden Impact. And, my mom was like, hey, this time it's Dad's turn to pick the movie and stuff. So we went to the movie theater. My dad wanted to watch Sudden Impact, Clint Eastwood and stuff. Great movie. And, one of the previews that came up was Children of the Corn. Well, sometime later, the movie came out. We went to go to the theater to see it. And I admit I was really kind of pissed about that because at the time, there was a girl, I was in first grade, I believe. But there was a girl named April that I was really just over the moon for. And, I had the chance to go to her birthday party. And we had to leave to go to the movie, so I was kind of pissed about that. But anyway, so we watched the movie and stuff, and I ended up falling in love with the movie. And then, actually, the very first time I left home, we went to my grandparents' house and, to stay over for a weekend. We'd never done that before, so for me, it was my first time away from home. And I was a little bit homesick, and my grandmother, she rented some VHS tapes, and she knew I liked this movie, so she rented the VHS for me. And, because I was homesick and stuff, I put the movie on to watch, kind of made me feel a little bit better and stuff. But the problem was a couple of my cousins, they would turn around and take the movie and put it on and play it, but then they would turn around and blame me and, why is it, why does this movie just keep playing all the time? It's like, it's him. He's the one doing it and all this stuff. And I remember, I think we also rented like Terminator and Chud, and I think we rented a couple of other movies. But anyway, so yeah, we ended up watching over the weekend. We watched this movie quite a few times, and I did watch it several times. I ain't gonna lie, but still, I did kind of get sold out by my cousins because they would turn around and put this movie on. Then when my grandparents would get mad, say, "Oh my God, you're watching that again?" They would turn around and blame me for it. But anyway, I wonder if maybe the reason I like it, why I like the story so much is because the story was originally published in 1977 in Penthouse magazine, 1977 being by my birth year. But of course, I don't have the Penthouse magazine, but I do have the book Night Shift that Stephen King later put the story into the book. But I also have this version of the book, the short story called Stephen King Goes to the Movies. This is really cool. You can see right there, Children of the Corn right there. This also has Shawshank Redemption, 1408, The Mangler, and Hearts in Atlantis. For some reason, I thought The Mist was in this. Okay, never mind. But anyway, so yeah. But I do, I do enjoy the story, but now we get, and that's one of the reasons why I don't absolutely hate the 2009 remake. I would have to say, yeah, I do prefer the 1985 movie version of it more. I'll get to that in just a minute, but I will say, one thing I will say about this version of the movie is like, honestly, if you watch this, you never actually have to read the short story because this movie follows the short story literally word for word. As a matter of fact, it follows it so much that I don't know if you can see there or not, but they had to give Stephen King screenwriting credit because it follows his story to the letter, you know. So, and King had no input into this movie. As a matter of fact, you go back, you look at the history, King did write an original screenplay for, when they were going to do the original movie, but they felt they couldn't use his screenplay because the characters were too unlikable and the ending was too much of a downer and stuff like that. And King got mad about it. And, so years later, Donald P. Borchers, who, co-produced the original film, decided to, do a remake of it and to, do the short story justice and to, do a film that is, very much based on the short story. I forget, but I think the names of the characters in the short story I think were different. I think that's kind of like the one thing he kind of kept was the names of Isaac and Malachi. And here, that's Isaac, or yeah, that's Isaac, that's Malachi there. So, but anyway, so I would definitely say if there is one thing there is one bit of credit I could give to the remake is that, yeah, like I said, if you watch this version of it, you really never need to read the short story because it is a word-for-word adaptation of the short story. It's incredibly faithful. So there is that. Like I said, I've watched this movie plenty of times and I've always enjoyed it. And, but at the same time though, too, it's like, I know that King was not happy about this movie, but I felt this way with Children of the Corn and I felt this way with the movie version of The Shining. It was like these movies, made me become a Stephen King fan. What I mean by that is, when I watched The Shining, I watched The Shining before I ever watched, before I ever read the book. And it was the same thing with Children of the Corn. I watched the movie before I ever read the short story. But the thing was, though, was like these turned me into a Stephen King fan. They made me want to buy Stephen King's books and read his books. And it made me want to become a King fan, which, I did. So I would, so yeah, I did, so obviously, I bought the book, and I've read the short story and everything else. But, but still, it's like, if it hadn't been for these movies, maybe I wouldn't have latched on to, Stephen King as much as I have. And, now I've read pretty much, yeah, I think except for maybe one or two, I think I've read just about every book he's written, so, and I'm happy about that, and, I've been a Stephen King fan pretty much all my life. So, and, this movie and The Shining, plus also too, like Salem's Lot, Carrie, stuff like that, some of the early movies, I have to thank for that because it made me want to buy his books and read them. So anyway, so, I'm just saying if there was a little bit of good that come out of this, I try to have a little bit of, try to add a little bit of a silver lining to it. So, but, yeah, I will say that I actually, even though this is a stretch away from King's book, I do enjoy this movie, not just for nostalgic reasons, but also because, the problem with, the characters in the remake is, and in the short stories, if you read the story, the characters in the short story are so incredibly unlikable, and you're just like, you're just waiting for them to die. You just want something bad to happen to them. Like they just get to the point they get on your nerves so much. And that was one of the things that they changed when they did the original movie was they felt that, that the main characters needed to be more likable. So when they got Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton, the idea was, let's make them better characters and, make them more likable and try to get the audience on their side, which unfortunately that is a problem with this remake is, the audience is never on the side of the two characters, Bert and Vicky. I will say though, is like, I know this was back in 2009, but, yeah, the day may come, they might turn around and do, they may look at this movie and say like, this is one of those movies that definitely does not help as far as like DEI and race swapping a character, because in this movie, obviously Linda Hamilton is white, and they make her character incredibly sweet and likable, and she lives at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But I'm hoping that if you're watching this video, it's because you've seen the movie already, so you already know how it ends. But so anyway, yeah, you make Linda Hamilton's character sweet and likable, and you're on her side the entire movie. Where Candace McClure, you're not really on her side that much. And but I will say they did hire her to play the Sue Snell character in the 2001 TV remake of Carrie, and she was a lot more likable in that one. But the thing is Candace McClure. I try to show it to you, but you can't really see it. But she's African American, and so in this movie, the Vicky character is just nagging and whining and complaining the entire time. Which, that's not going to make black women look very good, is it? But David Anders, he's okay. I don't think he really has kind of the charm or the charisma that Peter Horton had. I think Peter Horton, even though he had his moments, he could be gruff, but I mean, he was always kind of just very likable. Whereas like David Anders' character just kind of, he's not the worst thing, but it's just, just kind of, I don't know, just something about his character. But like I said, that was the biggest problem with the two main characters. They make them completely unlikable, and then just like I said, you're just kind of waiting the entire time for them to die. Whereas in this one, you want to see Bert and Vicky live, But also too, just the kids in the movie are like they're just kids. They're not really intimidating as much, but one thing I will say definitely about the original as well is, they were really, really smart in their casting choices. Not just Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton, but to get Courtney Gaines to play Malachi, who, you'll admit he is definitely one of the most interesting, threatening figures in the entire movie. The whole movie's worth it to watch it just for Courtney Gaines alone, but also, too, John Franklin as Isaac. John Franklin as Isaac, that is just phenomenal casting. He wasn't a child. He was, I believe, he was like pretty much a fully grown adult, but he suffered from, I don't want to say, I don't know if it's dwarfism or something, but anyway, so you have, these two who became, horror icons. So much so that later on, John Franklin co-wrote and did a sequel called Children of the Corn. I think it was 666, Isaac's Return. He did do a sequel, though, but it didn't fare very, very well. But So you have that, and just, this movie, like, that's kind of the big difference between this movie and this movie, is this movie is trying very much to be a faithful adaptation of King's short story, which it is. But, it's just, the thing about this movie is, these two movies will kind of tell you that, it kind of helps you learn the lesson that, not everything that works in a story or works in a book will always translate well to screen. It does help you understand, books and movies are two different, they're two different formats, they're two different entities, and, so it's like this here, what works, sometimes what works in a movie doesn't, or what works in a story doesn't always work in a movie. So, but the people that made this movie were smart. They, I do enjoy the occasional downer ending of a movie, but, it's like the fact that this movie worked so well that, they got a great, they knew what worked for a movie. They knew what was visually interesting and audibly interesting for, the audience. Because not only that too, but, I'm sorry, I forget the name of the composer. But the composer for the movie, the music score in this is brilliant. I do have the soundtrack on CD. It's an amazing score, great cast. You just have all the elements you need to make a good horror film. But also too, you make the main characters a little bit more likable. You kind of give them, give the audience somebody more to root for. You could argue back and forth this movie does not have the Job and Sarah characters that this movie has. You know, you have the Job and Sarah character in this movie where, you know, they're two kids who, you know, decided not to go with Isaac and kill all the grown-ups and just, you know, give themselves to, you know, he who walks behind the rose. You know, they kind of, you know, but the thing is though too, is like, okay, yeah, you have two kids that didn't go along with Isaac and Malachi. You think there would have been more kids that would, you know, or maybe because, you know, they figured if they didn't go with him, you know, if they didn't follow along with Isaac and Malachi, they were going to die and they just didn't want to die. So I don't know. So, I mean, you could, you know, you could debate about that, but there is no Job and Sarah character in this. In this version here, the, you know, all the kids are pretty much in on it. They're all evil. You know, I know that one of the things I heard was that in this movie version, instead of 12 years later, it ended up being 3 years later because, you know, they thought it was unbelievable that in 12 years, you know, nobody would know, you know, about what was going on in Gatlin. People didn't investigate. I think honestly, you know, like I think it was supposed to be implied in this version of the story that he who walks behind the rose was, you know, because it is this, you know, ominous being and, you know, this kind of entity, deity, whatever you want to call it, that it was able to, you know, basically figure out a way to keep everybody out of the town and keep people away from it, or, you know, only kind of let people that need to come in. You know, it was a kind of a way to keep everybody out. You know what I mean? Or if people were just driving through, they would just see the place is empty and just figure, okay, nothing going on. Or, you know, just over the years, you know, more and more, you know, people would go into the town and they would go into Gatlin, they just would not come out. You know what I mean? So it's, I mean, you could kind of, you know, I mean, I get what they're saying, but at the same time, though, you know, you kind of like, well, I mean, you could make up reasons why all this time, nothing had happened. You know what I mean? So anyway, but overall, yeah, just for a number of reasons, you know, I do enjoy this movie, mostly because, like I said, it is a very faithful adaptation of the short story, and I do appreciate it for those reasons. But I will have to say, you know, if you ask me which one I prefer, I actually do prefer this one just because of, you know, the great cast. And that was the thing. Like, does it say? Oh, Jonathan Elias. Stupid me. It's like his name is right there. Jonathan Elias did the music for both of these movies. And the, you know, the music score, you know, just, that's the thing. This movie just, in my opinion, just has more going for it. Just, the characters are more likable. It's more interesting. The villains are more iconic. The music score, just all of it, you know, just has, you know, perfect ingredients. But, so yeah, I would definitely say, I would definitely choose the original over the remake. But at the same time, like, even though I don't enjoy this movie as much as the original, I do still appreciate it in the sense that it is a faithful adaptation of the short story, and I appreciate what they tried to do with it. But yeah, like I said, you know, when you watch these two movies, you know, this is one of those situations where it kind of does get you to understand that movies and books are two different mediums. And, you know, sometimes what works in a story doesn't always translate well to screen. So, but anyway, so there we go. Don't mind the remake. I can watch it every now and again, but I definitely prefer the original over this one. So, and yeah, this one here, like I said, it's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely a hell of a lot. I can watch this over a lot of the sequels, that's for sure. So, so anyway, so yeah, that's it. So, there we go. Hopefully, you know, you enjoyed this video. I hope, you know, if you took the time to watch all of it, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, would you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And that's it, everybody. Take care. Have a good night. See you all later.